When I went on this journey to change my diet, I had a number of issues that I was considering at the time, and it wasn't just health that was my motivator for switching to firstly a vegetarian diet and then a vegan diet. It was a combination of health, respecting the fact that animals are mistreated in animal industries, and also looking at the environmental implications of the food we're eating. And a lot of the studies I looked at actually showed that, like with the 5 hectares, you could feed something like about 50 with beans and only about 2 with beef, for example. So I thought, well, gee, from an environmental point of view, I want to be eating something that's a lot more sustainable from that angle as well. And so I started with that view, and it wasn't 100% because I knew all of the health answers. It certainly wasn't that. I was kind of making a change, and I noticed that as I was making these changes that I was noticing improvements in my health. And I certainly was finding that I had a lot more energy and a lot less colds and a lot less symptoms of all other diseases than I had previously. And then as I started to do more research and learn more, then I started cutting out other foods that I didn't know were harmful. I didn't realise that fried chips were bad for me, for example, so I started cutting them out. I didn't realise that dairy was bad. I cut that out, and of course there's other implications with that too. And then I eventually came across the acid alkaline diet, which was much further down the track. It was only after I really started investigating the health angle specifically to really learn about that I came across the acid alkaline diet. So I didn't start with that as my premise, and that only came about much later. And at that point, before I'd discovered that alkalinity can reverse most diseases, I was having a very high fruit diet, and I noticed that at the time I had a lot of problems with my teeth, for example. And a lot of that started to reverse completely when I went on an alkaline diet. When I removed the sweet fruits and focused on the sour fruits and just had mostly vegetables, my teeth, the amount of cavities I had virtually disappeared completely. And for many years, I haven't had any teeth issues. And another thing I felt is I had a lot more energy when I switched to an alkaline diet. And I also found that I had more endurance, and it's been a diet that I think has been a great benefit to me. The challenges that I had with it was that initially, when you are eating a lot of sweet fruits, you crave those fruits, and it can take you a while to get used to having something sort of sour like a grapefruit. And a lot of people don't get used to that very easily, and I must admit I didn't find that appealing at the beginning. Even I found lemon juice not very appealing either. But what you find is the more that you have these foods, the more your own taste buds tend to change, and your expectations of what you like in foods changes as well. And then you start appreciating the value in these foods that you weren't eating in great concentrations before. And so now, for example, I crave having like capsicums and cucumbers and grapefruits, whereas previously I'd be craving all the sweet fruits, and before that the biscuits and cakes and ice creams and things like this. So it's a gradual process, and I suggest that that's a good sustainable way for people to maintain a healthy diet, is to gradually move to it in a sustainable way, rather than going cold turkey, going from a standard Western diet to like a raw plant-based diet, and only to find that the body goes into a major detox, and it can be a rather painful experience, and then you go back to where you started. So luckily I didn't go through that. I went through a very gradual process. I don't grow very much food these days. Hopefully that will change in the near future. I'm hoping to give myself a lot more time to grow, and I have had a number of different goes at growing vegetables, and it's been a very rewarding experience when I have done that in my backyard. And when I was growing up, when I was a kid, I would see my dad growing vegetables in the backyard, in his backyard, and he'd have every kind of vegetable you can think of, and fruit trees and the rest of it, and it was a great experience, to see all of that. And he'd be using compost, all of the garden scraps and everything that we get, from the kitchen would go straight into the compost, and there'd be lots of worms in there, and have a nice healthy soil, and he wouldn't be using any artificial things in the soil. It'd be basically just growing the natural kind of way, and I'd like to be doing more of that myself. In fact, I'd like to be doing some of that. At the moment, I'm that busy. I'm hardly growing anything apart from just a few herbs. But for a while there, I was growing quite a lot of stuff. I've actually grew carrots and onions and garlic and broad beans and coriander and lettuce and bok choy and a whole range of other greens and silver beet and broccoli and cauliflower, etc. And look, I have to say that there's nothing more enjoyable than eating something fresh that you've grown yourself, and you really appreciate nature and you appreciate the whole process, and also the challenges that you come across as well when you've got soils that are less than favourable and some things that are growing and not, and other things that are kind of letting you down for whatever reason. It's a learning experience. But it's a great thing I want to be doing more of.